everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Empowerment podcast. This is your podcast for everything learning, leadership, coaching, and personal growth. I am your host, Dr. Maurine Kwende. I help leaders and organizations put their dreams to flight as an executive leadership coach, speaker, facilitator, author, educator, learning leader, CEO, and founder of EMK Learning Solutions. I will be excited to help support you. So let me know. Well, let's get into today's episode. If you're tuning in for the first time, I would like to say welcome to the group. And if you're a returning listener, I want to thank you for being part of this podcast. We've been going strong. This is the 5th year. I want to thank you so much for your weekly downloads, for your sharing, and your feedback, comments from the various topics that we discuss on the podcast, empowering leaders to become better leaders. So I'd like to thank you again for being part of this community. So every month we do pick a topic or theme, and so this week we're wrapping up the theme of future readiness. So I just want to ask you a couple of questions. Have you ever truly considered the legacy you're building as a leader? It's more than just the goals you achieve or the position you hold or the title. Your legacy is the culture that you create. It's what you want to be remembered for and the things you can do today to shape that legacy. So today's episode, we're going to be talking about building that legacy of future readiness. In a world where there's constant change, things are evolving all the time, the question isn't just what will we do next? But the question is, are we building a culture that can adapt, innovate, and thrive through whatever changes come next? So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. Your legacy, your leadership legacy, reimagining a future-ready culture. Last week, we talked about asking 10 questions to help you assess whether your leadership approach and your organizations are future-ready. And then next, we talk about cultivating a future-ready mindset, right? And so the third episode on this theme, we talked about reskilling and upskilling your team for future readiness. So today we're going to be talking about legacy building. So what is future-ready culture? It's a culture that is really not a checklist, but that is an environment where you have an agile structure, you have a growth-mindedness in spirit, you want to have, empowerment in action, you have innovation by design, and an environment which is ready to embrace change rather than resist it. So this kind of culture is a culture that thrives in curiosity, collaboration, adaptability, embracing change. It encourages people to ask bold questions, take smart risks, and see change not as a threat, but as an opportunity, as a catalyst. As you are a leader, right, and your leadership legacy is not something you leave behind when you retire. It's something really that you build every day, even today. So through your values, through your vision, through your environment that you create, right, so you're able to work on those things. So what are some of the pillars of future readiness culture? We talked about mindset already a little bit, but just remember that when it comes to mindset, your culture must promote a collective growth mindset. As a leader, I have been with many organizations where the opposite happened, right? You were actually punished for having that growth mindset. Stagnation was at its best. There was resistance, even when it comes to even like diverse perspectives. So that's not what we want to be remembered for as a leader. That's not the legacy you want to leave, right? So are your people encouraged to try, to fail, to learn from failure, and then try again? Do you reward curiosity? Do you reward experimentation like many companies like Amazon, Netflix? Do you value feedback? So those are some things you want to think about when it comes to having the mindset. What about agility? Are you agile? Can people describe you as an agile leader? Is your organization agile? That is also one of the pillars of future readiness. Agility needs that there is that quick reaction when things change. It's about being strategic in your responsiveness. Are you and your team ready to pivot, reimagine, and experiment when things change? Can you say yes to that question? Pillar number 3, empowerment. Does your team, do your people feel trusted, supported, safe to make decisions, safe to share ideas, lead from where they are? Can you safely say that there is psychological safety in your organization? Like I mentioned earlier on, I have been in situations where just for sharing ideas, people were punished, or people, would actually steal some of those ideas and make it their own. And so, of course, then they're surprised why people stop, sharing stuff within those meetings and projects. So, team and true team empowerment is really the launch pad for innovation and where, and cultural resilience. So, you really want to think about these pillars that I've shared. You have a mindset, you have agility, empowerment, you also have innovation, right? We've talked about, changes every day, especially when it comes to technology. AI at its forefront is continuing to evolve. How are you embracing innovation and technology? So now we're going to get into talk a little bit more about why innovation isn't just about big ideas. It's about building systems where small ideas can grow. It's about experimentation, collaboration, and thinking beyond the status quo. When you're embracing change, right, you're preparing your people emotionally, mentally, structurally to adopt. And that doesn't mean that you're forgetting the human aspect of leadership, right? You still are required to lead from the heart. So as we go on today, I would like to ask you to ask yourself this question: is change welcomed or feared in your culture? I would like you to also answer this question: are people encouraged to challenge assumptions? So if not, you got to be able to start there, right? Because that's really where the legacy building starts when you're wanting to create that future ready workforce. What are some steps that you can take, some practical steps that you can take to shape this legacy driven culture? I want to say number one, know yourself. You got to know yourself to grow yourself before you can grow others. And that means you're going to know yourself enough to lead by example. You want to model curiosity, adaptability, humility, change. Many times leaders say one thing and act another way. That's not what we want, right? You want to be able to lead by example. You want to also foster psychological safety, which I shared earlier on. When you're within your organization, encourage open dialogue, questions, and even having, those respectful conversations, right? Invest in learning. Offer many coaching, leadership cohorts, mentoring, whatever is needed to empower your team to grow, right? I cannot talk enough about encouraging experimentation, right? And then also being able to stay true to your vision and values, where everybody knows that their work matters and the direction where everybody's going, they have one true north, right? So be able to also champion diverse voices. Innovation thrives where people with different experiences and perspectives are empowered to lead. So that's one thing that you also want to consider as a practical step when you want to shape your legacy-driven culture. So as you ask yourself these questions, a final reflection for you is this: what kind of culture do you want to leave behind? You want to leave a culture that's fragile, dependent, or reactive, or one that's bold, agile, proactive, designed to evolve? I was working with a leader this week who was talking about these same challenges because they were feeling that they were in an environment where they're just reactive all the time. And that leader wasn't happy about that. And she was determined, actually, to turn things around. What about you? Would you like to turn things around? Your leadership legacy will be measured not only by your accomplishments, but by how you prepared others to lead, to grow, to carry your vision through every change that comes. So I want to invite you to consider what are some ways that you can make those changes. You're more than welcome to consider many other programs if you don't have them within your organization, or invite even outside consultants to come and partner with you to make these changes happen. Okay, so as we close today, I want to challenge you to write down maybe 3 words that describe the culture you want to be remembered for. And then take one intentional step this week to enforce those values in your team and your workplace. Your leadership legacy is already in motion. Build it with intention, shape it with courage. I would like to say thank you for joining me on this journey through Future Ready Leadership. If this series inspires you, I want to invite you to subscribe, share with a fellow leader, and leave a review if possible. Until next time, keep leading, keep learning, and keep putting your dreams to flight, because the culture you create today becomes the legacy you leave tomorrow. This is Dr. Maurine Kwende signing off. See you same time next week.